Hey guys, it's Zoe. So today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. Is that the word? Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. First up though, the language from the last video was Hungarian. Most of you got that one right. The feedback that I got said I did pretty well. There are just a couple little things that I could improve on if I do decide to one day actually learn Hungarian. The language for today is one that I have never heard spoken. I knew a guy that did an exchange in this country and he was telling me how hard it was to learn this language, so I decided to torture myself and I'm gonna try it today. Hi, idag midvikudagur. I'm gonna listen to it one more time and see if I'm close at all. Idag midvikudagur. Midvikudagur. I don't know. Full disclosure here, I spent the entire time I was getting ready listening to somebody say the word for Wednesday over and over and practicing, and all of the windows were open and there are people working on the train tracks next to my house, so I'm pretty sure they heard me and I'm pretty sure I sound insane. I was also listening to children's songs to see if that could help understand the pronunciation, and this language is just right over my head. These sounds are so foreign to me that it's comical, but I gave it my best shot and I'm not gonna keep trying because this is ridiculous. But hi, idag midvikudagur. I think that's it. We're done. No. Okay. Where am I saying? What am I saying? Where am I going with this? I don't remember. I started a total of 14 books in April and I managed to finish 12 of them. For about the first half of the month, I was focused on writing an essay for my last class ever. So I was reading a lot of books from my school library, which were so boring, but they were totally necessary to finish this essay. But because I was reading a lot of those, I fell into a dirty reading slump, and I didn't get all of the books done that I wanted to, but I still got a solid chunk. If any of you guys remember, I was participating in the magical readathon, and while I didn't finish all of the owls that I wanted to, I managed to finish 9. I ended up shuffling around some of the books and not using the ones that I had originally intended for the challenges, but I managed to finish 9 out of the 12, and I'm pretty pleased with that. I had a lot of fun reading these books and doing this readathon, so I think I might redo it a few months from now, but we'll see. I'm keeping my options open because I don't know what other fantastic readathons people are gonna come up with, and I don't know if I'm gonna come up with a readathon, so we'll see. So I'm gonna start at the beginning of the month and work my way to the end of the month in the order that I read the books. So let's just get right into it. The first book I read was Love and Other Trainwrecks by Leah Conan. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. It was the perfect cutesy contemporary read that I was looking for at the time, and I really just didn't have to think much when I was reading this, which sometimes is exactly what you need. Because I didn't think too much while reading this, I don't really have too many thoughts about it other than the fact that I loved it. Curtis, you bringing me water? Thanks, Bia. Frig off, Barb. The next book I read is definitely one of my top 5, maybe even top 3 of the year so far. This one was Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars as well. I absolutely love the world building that went on in this book. I love the characters, I love the plot. Some of it was a little bit predictable, but I didn't really guess the way that it was gonna happen. I just guessed the things that were going to happen, if that makes any sense at all. The characters, as much as I love them, really annoyed me sometimes. I remember updating on Goodreads about how much the main character absolutely pissed me off. But you have to keep in mind how young she is and how crap her life had been up to that point, but at the same time, you should kind of try and be a good person. I was kind of in denial about certain things happening until the very end. I don't want to spoil anything, but my heart was broken. Was it really though? Did I really care that much? Yes, I did. Let's be honest with ourselves. The ending left us on such a good cliffhanger. I am so excited to read the next book. I'm very impatient and I don't want to wait to read the next book, but there's really nothing I can do, so I will wait extremely impatiently and try and fill the void that the end of this book left with other amazing books, like the next one that I read, which was The Bells by Danielle Clayton. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars as well. This book is one that I identified with on so many different levels. I knew I would going into it because I've heard the author talking about some of her motivations for writing this and some of her thoughts and feelings that she had growing up, and they really resonate with me because I've had the exact same feelings and thoughts and insecurities, to say the least. What really got to me is the fact that these people are trying to change what they look like in every possible way for their entire lives. Granted, that is because they're born gray with red eyes and apparently hideously ugly, but who knows if that's actually true. But they still want to change everything about how they look. Also how they act and their personality, but that is a little bit farther than I ever went. The reason that I really identified and connected with this book was because growing up, I absolutely hated the way I looked. I was one of the only black people in my grade. I was the only one with super curly hair. I was one of the only ones that really looked different, other than my best friend who was Punjabi, and we were the only ones. Growing up, I wished and wished and wished every single day that I could look more like the other kids in my class or more like my family. I wished for blonde hair. I wished for blue eyes. That really hasn't changed, but I wish I had green eyes because green eyes are fantastic, but that is a whole different tangent. The main thing is I wished that I looked different. I wish that I wasn't black, which is horrible when you think about it, but that's the way I thought. And I've heard a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, a lot of authors say that they went through the exact same struggle. So seeing that in a book, in albeit a different form, but still the same struggle, was very different for me because I've never really experienced that. I've never really experienced reading a book where the characters have had the same struggles that I did. Where I stopped identifying and connecting with these characters is the fact that I've moved past that. I've learned to accept the way I look. I've learned to love the way I look. I've learned to love the fact that I look different from most of the people that I knew growing up and most of the people in my life. I think a big turning point was when in high school, everybody who kind of made comments about the way I looked started going tanning all the time to get the same skin color that I have. Karma was really looking out for me that time. She's great. I love her. Anyways, without getting too much into detail for spoiler reasons, these characters at this point have not really come to that place of acceptance, really. The only thing that I really didn't like about this book, and the reason I was wavering between a 4.5 and a 5, was the fact that the magic really wasn't explained as much as I thought it could be, but I am hoping that in the second book it's explained a little bit more. I don't think even really the characters know how the magic works, so that makes sense that the readers wouldn't really know. All in all though, this was one of my favorites that I've read so far this year, and definitely one of my favorites that I read last month. The next two books are the first two in a trilogy. The first one I've read already, the second one was my first time reading it, and these were Frostblood and Fireblood by Ellie Blake. Both of these I gave just a 3 out of 5. Honestly, I feel like that was being a little bit generous because they were just meh. They were very, very average. There's nothing really that stuck out about them. I don't even really remember what happened in them, and I finished Frostblood on the 11th and Fireblood on the 12th, so you'd think that I have some recollection of what happened in these books, but I don't because they weren't that special. There's nothing about them that really stood out to me. The characters were just kind of meh. It was so full of tropes, it was ridiculous. Fireblood was super predictable. It was just okay. The third book is coming out sometime this year, I think, so I will definitely read that one because I have a thing about finishing series and I can't just stop halfway through because I need to know what happens, but I'm not really anxiously awaiting the third book. The next book I finished was on audiobook. This one was a long time coming. I was reading this one for way too long, and this book is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by J.K. Rowling. I really don't think I need to go into the fact that this was a 5-star book and why I loved it, because if you've been here for a while, you probably already know how much I love Harry Potter, and if this is your first video, surprise, I love Harry Potter. The next book I finished was also on audiobook, and this was in between the next 3 or 4 books that I read. This one is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, also by J.K. Rowling. I'm sure it's not surprising at all. This was also 5 stars. Finishing this left me in the depths of despair, because that always happens when I finish Harry Potter. How do I go on? It ended, but it didn't really end because I've been obsessively reading fanfiction again, so there will never be another series ending that I love as much as this one. The next 4 books I read while I was listening to the audiobook, maybe 3 of them, maybe 4 of them. It's all a blur, but the next books are the first 4 books of the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, and City of Fallen Angels. Fallen Angels? Yeah, that's the one. City of Fallen Angels. I don't even remember anymore. They're all blurring together at this point. I don't really want to hold all 4 of them, and I don't really want to talk about each one individually. They were all 5 stars. The first ones I've read several times. This is my first time reading City of Fallen Angels, also 5 stars. If you remember me talking about the Mortal Instruments before, you'll remember that I read the first 3 books when they were still originally a trilogy, and then several years later this one came out, and I never really got around to reading it because I thought the series was done, and I didn't see the need for more books in the same series. Reading this one, I still hold that opinion that it could have been done. However, I did love this one, and I see where there were some plot holes and loose ends that weren't tied up, that were sort of tied up in this one, but then opened up a whole other can of worms. There were times in this one where I felt like it kind of dragged, and it really didn't need to happen, but it didn't take away from my overall enjoyment, and I ended up really loving this one. I'm really looking forward to reading the last 2 books. Oh, that's not a cat, that's a bag. Okay, cool. I'm really looking forward to reading the last 2 books in this series. If they live up to the first 4 books, I am absolutely going to love them because I love the first 4. I really forgot though how much I loved the first 3. I remember liking them from when I read them in high school when they first came out, but I forgot just how much I did love them. I don't really know if I would love them as much if I started the series now with no prior knowledge of it, but the nostalgia is there. It reminds me of being 14 and devouring those books. Realistically though, that should scare me and really turn me off from that, because 14 was that a good time for anyone? Nonetheless, I loved this book. I have rekindled my love for the first 3 books, and I need to read all of her other books now. I feel like I've missed out on a lot. The last book that I finished in April was Wolf by Ryan Groudon. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. This was my second time reading this book, I think, and I absolutely love it. I love historical fiction and I love retellings, and this one is basically a retelling of history. What more could I ask for? I do wish that there was a bit more of the world building and explaining what Nazi Germany was like to live in it in 1956, and really just flesh out that whole idea of Hitler being in power for that long. But other than that, I really enjoyed this. Personally, I just thought it was really cool that she stuck so closely to history while only changing certain things. For what it was, I really enjoyed this book. I also started Blood for Blood, the sequel to Wolf by Wolf, as well as A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Those are not done yet. I'm only about halfway through both of them, I think. So I'll include those in my May wrap-up because I will have ended up finishing most of those in May instead of April. As per usual, to stay updated with my current reads and how I'm feeling about them, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads, all at You're a Book Nerd Zoe, which I will leave linked down below in the description box. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I think that's all I really had to say for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day and get at least a little bit of uninterrupted reading time. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!